Ladies and gentlemen, Todrick has no idea whatsoever how close he was to being sent to the Shadow Realm. Understand in this rant, the ninth rant of Celebrity Big Brother 3, I'm going to break down why Chris Kirkpatrick has reached his breaking point with MIESHA and Todrick. The only reason Todrick is still in that house right now is because Chris Kirkpatrick himself did terribly in the veto competition. Understand, he was never going to put it upon SHANNA to win that veto, take someone off, and then it would have just made them both look bad as a united front. This way, they're able to blend back into the mighty middle, allow both sides to eat themselves, and hopefully they'll make jury relatively easy. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the critically acclaimed, the Pop the Trunk podcast, now Patreon exclusively sponsored Hall of Fame. Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. I'm, of course, your humble host, Dave Smith, Pretty Boy Smitty, Protocol Paul, Pearl Game Ultra, Smid Dog Trill, The Rant God, Hotep Thanos, Throne Thanos, Metro Kaiba, the Pro Black Prodigy, the Shadow Realm Shaman, the Pronoun Punisher, and the No Sleep Assassin, here to bring balance back to Celebrity Big Brother Season 3. All of the above on that ISET test and ACT. You know what it is. Intro so powerful, the lag in the internet connection can't stop me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the ninth rant, entitled Calm Before the Swarm. And the reason why it's called that is quite self-explanatory. Understand, if Kirkpatrick would have taken that shot at Todrick, yes, it would have given us a great night to talk about. That's true. But by him not taking that shot right now, by them foregoing that opportunity for a later date, we are guaranteed to have a week 3 worth of watching on them feeds. So it's a win-win scenario, coach. And listen, if you're a fan of Mirai Nagasu, I'm not trying to be emotionally insensitive, but let's be some realists here. She wasn't built for this game. If you're not built for this game, I highly recommend you leave stage left as soon as possible, because we want people who are worthy of being there due to gameplay, not identity politics, towards the end of that game to have a right to win the game. I just want that to be stated, because Todrick was trying to virtue signal something serious all weekend, trying to be everybody's PR person. Oh, well, Chris Kirkpatrick, I just want you to, please, say all of the right things in the way that you label Mirai. That way it isn't taken out of context to believe that you're racist for targeting her. Listen, I get it. I've been on the other end of this before. Watching a black player in the game by themselves get swarmed. All right, now you understand the title of this rant. I understand that. I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to act like just because X won the game, black folks don't have a lot more progress we need to obtain. But with that said, Mirai was getting a little bit of a free ride based off tokenism, and it was getting a little uncomfortable for me. I'm glad she was sent home now. She doesn't have to be subjected to more trauma. She doesn't have to be mistreated any further. I think everyone could wash their hands of this. And based off some of the stuff Spoiler Guy was saying, production tried to create that veto to help Mirai, and she almost pulled it off. So at the end of the day, coach, as a fan of this game, as a purist of this game, as someone who prefers entertainment value, especially when the season's only 3 weeks long, Mirai leaving week 2 was the best situation for all fans. Look, I get it. If you're a fan of CYNTHIA, you want that instant gratification, right? You want Todrick to reach that Shadow Realm as soon as possible. But believe it or not, for CYNTHIA's game, MIESHA needs to leave before Todrick. I know that sounds wild, but you can't be emotional here. Okay, you got to be smart. And see, this is why I got to give CYNTHIA credit. Because over this weekend on live feeds, matter of fact, I think it was this morning. This morning, she initiated a final 2 deal with CARSON. I don't believe they named it yet. Feeds were off a lot today. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that they didn't want the results spoiled. But then again, the veto ended up being live anyway, so there's nothing too spoiled. So maybe they was just wasting time today, and that's why feeds were down. Maybe they were just under lockdown for a long time today. But understand, CYNTHIA has now a final 2 deal with CARSON. That's very positive. While I will have some constructive criticism and say, damn, it's pretty late for a final 2 at this point. Y'all pretty much was a final 2 for the rest of the house. it's still good because it shows Cynthia is picking up the pieces and she is not allowing other people to snatch up Carson as they're untouchable. That's important for Cynthia's game first and foremost because I believe Carson's going to start changing. He's going to start creating a momentum shift in this game. Not only do I want to give Cynthia credit for initiating that final two, I have to explain this situation between Kirkpatrick and Todrick in order to really explain Cynthia's benevolent gameplay. So please follow me. So essentially, the way this story is being told isn't a lie, right? Kirkpatrick wanted Mirai and Nagasu gone the entire time. But what changed was MIESHA, Tate, and Todrick were applying full court pressure. I'm talking 6 feet, no pressure. Can I inbound the ball, coach? You know what I mean? They wouldn't let him inbound the ball. Even we supposed to be on the same team, but you're guarding me. It's 6 versus 4. All right, I'm just saying what it is. Kirkpatrick felt as if friendly fire was activated in hardcore mode. He just trying to play core, coach. All right, enough of the references. My point is, Kirkpatrick expected undying loyalty from these two in exchange for sending TEDDI Mellencamp home. Understand, Kirkpatrick had a developing relationship with TEDDI. He did not need her to go for his game. Okay? Now, for the team, he was able to whack her. He was willing to whack her because in his mind, okay, she is the third number causing a trio on Carson's side. From SHANNA and Kirkpatrick's standpoint, if we whack TEDDI, then it's easier for us to pivot back to their side because they need us more. With TEDDI in the game, they don't need us to. With TEDDI gone, they need us versus MIESHA and Todrick, which is why it was smart for them to whack Mirai next, because Mirai technically was the third number, giving MIESHA, Tate, and Todrick a trio. So strategically speaking, if week 1 you had to target Carson's side because they had an unfair trio, then it's only fair that week 2 you target MIESHA's side because she had an unfair trio. So going into the final 9, ladies and gentlemen, let's do the quick numbers count. On the surface, it looks like 4 duos and KRESSLEY. But we know, because we're part of the recency bias radio family, we know KRESSLEY is basically an honorary third member of whatever Kirkpatrick is doing with SHANNA. So really, it's Kirkpatrick, SHANNA, and KATTAN. It is LAMAR and Todd. It is Cynthia and Carson. And it is MIESHA and Todrick. Ladies and gentlemen, that's entertainment. We literally have 4 sides of the house heading into week 3. How many times do we get stuff like this, where people are legit staunch on the sides that they plead loyalty to? This is very rare. So understand, while I would have preferred the Kirkpatrick backdoor of Todrick, and we'll get into even further why that was going to happen, I understand why for his game it was smarter to just take out a Mirai because she's someone who's more of a wild card, who can win one of these weird comps that could go after him, and then he has to live with the shame of Mirai, a relatively unbecoming player getting you out. That's a little, you wouldn't want that on your legacy either. I mean, that's like Chicken George taking you out. I'm just being honest. No disrespect, Howie. I'm just saying, all right, that was Mike Boogie's fault. But you get my point here. So understand. They're pushing super hard right now. They're like, does Mirai have to go? She's a loyal number for us. Now, Chris Kirkpatrick's thinking, hey, I went ahead and whacked TEDDI even though she had my back and hated Todrick's ass. Now you need to whack Mirai even though you ain't got a problem with her, but she would whack me. He has the same right to ask the same thing out of them. Now, the fact that they kept fighting him on this, it started to make his ego rise to the top. Now he's like, all right, so y'all are so worried about losing Mirai. You must not value me and SHANNA enough because in theory, it's addition by subtraction. Let Mirai go, you gain us too. What's the problem? But the fact that they were unwilling to let Mirai go, it told Chris Kirkpatrick and SHANNA that they really should be trusting Carson and Cynthia more because Carson and Cynthia are willing to offer them a Final Four damn near automatically. And we know Cynthia still don't really trust you as far as she can throw you, SHANNA. But it's the fact that Cynthia is at least smart enough to act fake around your fake ass that makes her still a more appealing candidate to work with. Plus, who do you want to be in Final Four with? Cynthia and Carson, or MIESHA, Tate, and Todrick? After what Todrick just did tonight during that veto competition, let's give him a little bit of credit. I don't want to be nowhere near the end with him. Huh? Can we keep it a bean? That man saw every marry me sign. I'm like, damn. Like, the first few of them, I didn't see it at all. Then eventually I started remembering what the sign looked like, and I started getting some towards the end of the comp. But Todrick damn near got every answer right. He started choking towards the tail end of it, which allowed Shayna to win the veto, which started to perk me up because I thought she was going to work with Kirkpatrick to get him out, but they did it and it makes sense. So anyway, Todrick trying to be this PR person to speak up for Mirai, being the only Asian person in the cast. You know, it's real rich for you to do all this virtue signaling, Todrick, as if you care so much about Mirai's well-being when you're responsible for all the trauma she's been put through because you put a target on her with MIESHA first. That led to her offering massages to stick around, which led to more trauma. But now you're creating an argument she needs to be spared. Oh, leave her alone. She's had enough. Man, you the one who punched her first. What is you talking about? If everybody flooded her, you stumped her first. How you gonna tell us we're not allowed to do what you did first? It's hypocritical, right? So when I see this virtue signaling, but then this guy Todrick this week pitched to Chris Kirkpatrick for CYNTHIA to be a pawn. Yes, I'm not making this up. He pitched for CYNTHIA to be on that block next to Mirai Nagasu. So black women have every reason to not rock with Todrick because he's full of crap. Right? You're going to virtue signal for the one Asian girl on the cast, but the one black woman on the cast, you don't speak up for at all? How does that work? See, he can use Mirai, so he speaks up for her being a token. But when it comes to CYNTHIA being tokenized, he won't speak up for her. Why? Because she's with CARSON, who he's jealous of. So you get the gist of it. They're only protecting Mirai because they see weakness in her. They're attacking CYNTHIA and CARSON because they see formidable opponents in them. But the more they make victim noises, the more they tell Kirkpatrick he's better off working with CARSON and CYNTHIA because they ain't this stressful to talk to. They're easier to work with. Huh? The logistic side of it isn't as difficult. And if that's the case, I want to spare myself a headache by working with them instead. Now, he would eventually approach Shayna and tell her straight up, hey, yo, if I win this veto today, I'm backdooring Todrick. I've made up my mind at this point. You know, because at the end of the day, they doing too much. Because, see, Todrick and MIESHA act like they're some symbiotic relationship where they're one person together. It's really weird, huh? It's giving me Quicksilver and Wanda vibes. If you're a Marvel fan, you'll get that lingo, but I'll leave it there. They're acting as if they're Siamese twins who are just attached at the hip. They're acting as if, and that's why I want to call them the Wonder Twins, because honestly, where you go, I go. It's bizarre. And it gets to a point where it's grating on you, especially if they keep applying full court pressure 2v1 like they were doing to Kirk. So understand, Kirk was ready to take the shot at Todrick. Shayna gave him the vote of approval. Shayna's been stirring that pot like James Harden. You feel it? Dig me. Listen. She been stirring a honey pot like Winnie the Pooh on there. She got Kirkpatrick gas to take out Todrick. She got CYNTHIA and she got CARSON gas to take out MIESHA. And she got her feet kicked up. Now, to be fair, CARSON and CYNTHIA still don't trust you all the way. And see, that's why I believed from Shayna's vantage point, she was gassing up Kirkpatrick to backdoor Todrick because in her mind, if she can get Kirkpatrick to do that big of a move, she can run back to CARSON and CYNTHIA and say, I got Kirkpatrick to do that move. Trust me again. That's the game being played. But because she won this veto and Kirk choked, I mean, the guy didn't get a single answer right, did he? I mean, wow. I mean, you pitched yourself to be this huge comp beast, but from a mental standpoint, you look weak. Now, maybe this is all a ploy so he can lay low. I don't know, but what I do know is Shayna needed Kirkpatrick to win this veto, take that shot at Todrick. That way, she could be brought back into the fold with CARSON and CYNTHIA legitimately to have a trio with them and a trio in theory with Kirkpatrick and KATTAN. That was her win con. Because in her best case scenario, that's her final five. KATTAN, Kirkpatrick, CYNTHIA, and CARSON. See, I'm giving y'all some fastball game talk right here. So understand, all of Shayna's moves this week makes perfect sense. Now, I'd argue her winning that veto may be an L, but she kept Todrick from winning it, and he could have taken off Mirai, and then that could have led to a sticky situation where LAMAR got backdoored. And from a black fan perspective, look, I'll take that home with me. I'll take this outcome every time. Because it could have been worse. Someone black could have been sent to the Shadow Realm not named Todrick, and I'll take that with me. So, to wrap this up, what I want you all to understand is Todrick does not understand how lucky he is right now. Okay? The Shadow Realm was beckoning. And I thought it would be his days of final reckoning because of how well he did in that veto comp. I thought he was just justifying the back door by performing that well when he didn't have to. Once again, Todrick just competes way too hard all the time. He's got to learn when to turn off the rocket boosters. He's got to learn. Now, I'm not asking you to be Todd where it's completely obvious, but be somewhere in the middle between Todd and Kirkpatrick's level of throwing a comp. Right? And I think you'll be fine, but that's what makes week 3 so interesting to me, ladies and gentlemen. Because SHANNA ran to CYNTHIA and CARSON and notified them of the possible backdoor before it did not happen, which could prove to be a huge misplay. Let me be constructive with my criticism here. I gave SHANNA a lot of credit, but now's the time to hold her accountable. SHANNA, you may have jumped the gun by telling them too fast what was going to happen. Because when Kirkpatrick spoke to CYNTHIA earlier today in a storage room on feeds, he didn't tell her straight up Todrick was going up. He just said, you're not going up. It's going to be a move that benefits you and CARSON. He was vague with it. SHANNA got into specifics, and then it never came to fruition. And then when SHANNA wins veto, she doesn't use it. This should tell CARSON and CYNTHIA, oh, you back to playing both sides again, Bill. So in theory, SHANNA may have squandered the Mon Juan in terms of gaining traction by being trusted by that couple now. I don't know. And see, this is why for SHANNA's game, now that you've won this veto, one could create the argument she may need to gun for this HOH to protect CARSON and CYNTHIA. Because her choosing to not use the veto and keep noms the same to let Mirai go, while you can still create the argument her doing that helped CARSON and CYNTHIA because Mirai was more so on MIESHA, Tate, and Todrick's side, you can also create the narrative her not using the veto, which led to Todrick not being backdoored, also could have hurt CARSON and CYNTHIA heading into week 3's HOH. You could create an argument for both because I don't think Mirai would have really came for CYNTHIA. I think there's an argument that she could have came for CARSON under the right scenario, but I'm not buying that either. I think Mirai would have no doubt probably gone for a Todd and Kirkpatrick first. I don't think she goes after CARSON's side first. I don't think so. I think Mirai was playing both sides clearly, and that's why Todrick made her into a target. So that's what we have there. So I mean, in terms of the win conditions right now, I still think Kirkpatrick and SHANNA are sitting pretty good, but I think CYNTHIA and CARSON are gaining a lot of traction. This is why if you're a patron, you know first and foremost that CYNTHIA is now in my top 5, CARSON's back in my top 5, Todd somehow snuck in my top 5. No cap, these are all facts, and it's because I don't see anyone going after Todd moving forward because I don't see KATTAN winning an HOH to take him out. Kirkpatrick wants to drag him to the end. MIESHA wants to drag him to the end. LAMAR wants to drag him to the end. Todrick, to some extent, wants to drag him to the end. CYNTHIA wants to drag him to the end. CARSON wants to drag him to the end. It's only 9 people left, and 7 of them want to drag it to the end. So you got to put him in the top 5 too. So understand, ladies and gentlemen, even though we dodged a huge viral moment, we still have the opening for more viral moments. And I'm happy that the black man didn't get screwed by a backdoor. If I got to be honest, I just don't like the look of it. So if Todrick got to go, hopefully he goes because he on the block next to MIESHA, and he just got to accept his fate to some degree. But I need to give CYNTHIA some more credit now that I have added more context as to why Kirkpatrick wanted to backdoor Todrick. When SHANNA told her about the backdoor Todrick plan, this lady CYNTHIA still was so on code. Even though Todrick did her so wrong, she still stayed on code by saying, can MIESHA go before him? Listen, Todrick, if you would have just exhibited some of the same codified type rhetoric, you would be in a much better position today. You would have a lot more fans today. These are all the facts, coach. But ladies and gentlemen, those were essentially my thoughts. Because I'm not watching feeds, I do not know who the current HOH will be or has been. But I do want to answer y'all questions, get y'all thoughts on the game after week 2. And I pretty much gave you all a quick freestyle explaining this last weekend of feeds really quick. And because, and see, now you have to ask yourself, right? If CARSON, if CYNTHIA, if any of them win power, does it now behoove? No. Not CARSON and CYNTHIA. Let's say someone on the other side. Let's say a TODD, a LAMAR, a MIESHA, or a Todrick win HOH. What's stopping CYNTHIA from telling that side that, hey, did you know that SHANNA told me that KIRKPATRICK was going to backdoor Todrick? I still think CYNTHIA has some pivoting prowess, even if MIESHA or Todrick win HOH, because of how adversarial KIRKPATRICK was with Todrick over this weekend. It got listen, it became so blatant that KIRKPATRICK was grown, his patience was wearing thin with him, that Todrick said, hey, I'm going to leave the room and y'all can keep talking without me. So, and he even admitted and alluded to it during tonight's rant, that he feels some awkward energy. Like there could be some animus. So understand, I don't think Todrick and MIESHA are going to target KIRKPATRICK necessarily next week. But if they catch any wind of SHANNA and KIRKPATRICK playing both sides to the point or extent of how SHANNA has been sharing certain sensitive information with CARSON and CYNTHIA, there is a possibility here that they could flip on KIRKPATRICK and SHANNA themselves. But with that said, fans of CYNTHIA's game should still be rooting for her or CARSON to win power, because in my opinion, with Mirai leaving, it's still the better move, or it's still the more entertaining next power shift, because technically that side hasn't had power yet. Mirai leaving, that's not that side having power, right? KIRKPATRICK represents the middle. He's had power. MIESHA's had power. She represents that side. Now it's time for this side to have some power. But now, ladies and gentlemen, like I've alluded to, I'm ready to start answering y'all questions. And understand, I will be back on Wednesday night with another public rant, ladies and gentlemen. But I am on my way to the Bat Cave, and I'm ready to start answering your questions. Please do not forget to hit that like button, comment underneath this video, and give me your thoughts on tonight's episode and tonight's rant, and also share it with all of the fans of Celebrity Big Brother 3 that y'all rock with, all right? What's good, Zion? I see you, Coach. Feed still down. I'm missing the craziness. They're probably competing in the HOH comp right now, if I had to guess, Coach. Abdi, I don't blame you. Flopdrick, the Shadow Realm awaited him. But you got to keep it a bean. At least now heading into this next week, the game is getting a little bit more tricky and interesting. Because people are going to have to choose a side soon. K-Lou did you know what it is. It's lit. Not Chicken George. I had to go old school on him, Patrice. Okay, it seems like y'all enjoyed the rant. Listen, okay, wait a minute. Abdi did ask the question. Did Lamar or Todd ever confront Todrick about his now decision? Not to my knowledge, Coach. Based off feeds, it does suggest that Todrick and KIRKPATRICK organized some type of a deal on what to do. They were happy that CYNTHIA picked SHANNA first because SHANNA was able to get the ball rolling towards their side, having complete safety before it was down to Todd, KATTAN, and LAMAR. So with that thought process involved, no, they never confronted him. And they're still technically on his side even after that, which is shocking. Now, I personally believe, based off body language, KATTAN is being labeled as a guy on his own, but really he's with Kirk. Now, I think for Kirk's game, he needs Todd and KATTAN to make it as far as possible. I think KIRKPATRICK and SHANNA's ideal Final Four, honestly, this sounds crazy, is Todd and KATTAN. But I think they know the odds of them reaching the end with Todd and KATTAN is going to be hard because they're going to have to carry them both. And that's why I think their backup optimal play is CARSON and CYNTHIA. I think that makes a lot more sense. And you also got to look at it. Come on, MIESHA and Todrick, do I want to compete with them in the Final Four? A world-class athlete and a part-time pro-black guy? Or do I want to work with CYNTHIA, someone who's classy and on code and has a moral compass about her, and CARSON, who's one of the most nicest players we've seen in a while on this game? I got to be honest, the game I expected him to play, he is way easier to digest than Ross Matthews. I got to be honest. He's playing a great game so far. Felicia Barber asked a question. Did you notice Mirai had the first answer up? Yeah, see, that's another thing. Because Mirai didn't win the veto, I didn't want to allude to it, but I got to keep it real. It did feel as if things were going too well for Mirai and Todrick during that comp. When you talk about the two people, production did not want to lose this soon. It was being heavily implied that they were creating a veto comp that Mirai could win. Then we see the veto comp, and Mirai is somehow she's like dead shot all of a sudden from Suicide Squad. I just got to be honest. I mean, damn, what 2020 vision she had all of a sudden. She did very well. To be fair, all of them did well besides Kirkpatrick. And CYNTHIA did very well as well. I was very impressed by her performance. And I could tell by the way CYNTHIA and CARSON celebrated Shayna's win that they thought the back door was on. They thought it was time for a move to be made. Now, maybe they were just happy that Mirai didn't come off and happy Todrick didn't win anything. But based off their reaction, I think they thought the move was still going to be carried through. Now, the fact that it didn't get carried out now puts pressure back on CARSON and CYNTHIA to win some safety to protect themselves. KRESSLEY believes him winning that HOH was done to protect MIESHA's moves after her HOH week. Now he's hoping MIESHA and Todrick, because he didn't betray them and only took out Mirai, and because Shayna kept noms the same, he's hoping now both of them will be included in more. But here's the thing. Another reason why Kirkpatrick considered backdooring Todrick is because he realized, number one, Todrick and MIESHA don't include Shayna in any of the Final Four deals Kirkpatrick is in with them. That's a red flag for him. So you mean to tell me your untouchable is including everything but mine isn't? That's nonsense, right? So you have that side of the equation. Then on top of it, you also have not only the fact that they're like a symbiotic Siamese twin type, wonder twin type relationship, but then you also have to deal with the fact that his tactics towards bashing TEDDI MELLENCAMP last week, a lot of players have not forgotten it. Even Shayna and Kirkpatrick, two players who flipped on her at a moment's notice to get her sent to the Shadow Realm to open up the waves to pivoting prowess for their games, even they call foul on some of the rhetoric he was using towards TEDDI. I've already alluded to patrons how he tried to basically make it seem like a white person doesn't have the right to say the game is unfair. That I don't agree with. I believe anyone has the right to say the game isn't fair when production can rig it. But that's neither here nor there. In my opinion, rigging has no being a victim has no color to it. You can be a victim of a blatant rigging in any game show. All right, so that's my thought process there. So you got to understand, Todrick is the guy trying to bash TEDDI, kick her while she's down, but he still needs her vote to win the game. So when he approaches Shayna MOAKLER with a Final 2 deal, he tries to create the argument, oh, I want to go to the end with you over MIESHA because I can't beat MIESHA, but I can beat you. And Shayna is bashing him to Kirkpatrick, CYNTHIA, and CARSON. Listen, Todrick looks like a clown, but he's an entertaining one. All right? Listen, he's an entertaining one. I got to be fair there. I got to call it down the middle, right? So needless to be said, Kirkpatrick has a lot of reasons for not rocking with Todrick. And another reason why you don't like him is because when you bash TEDDI by making it seem like she's some spoiled white woman with money, but then in passing, you'll brag about having this $250,000 this or $15,000 that, or bragging about how you're going to go on tour for your music doing this. It really pisses off people because from their perspective, you're not keeping that same energy. When it's time for you to stunt and brag about what you have, that's fine. But they're figuring out a pattern in his behavior. What he does is he gets close to women, and then he talks about sensitive stuff from back home. Then when he beefs with them, he brings those things back up and tries to use them as a weapon against them. And Kirkpatrick and Shayna, they got him clocked. So even though they didn't take him out tonight, they know what he's capable of fully, and they'll always have their antennas up with him moving forward. And Shayna has been referring to CYNTHIA and CARSON as her ideal Final Four. So I think as long as CARSON or CYNTHIA win this Week 3 HOH, I think they never look back in terms of Shayna and Kirkpatrick. I think they stick with that side. I think they do. But that's my thoughts on that so far. The King says, did somebody go home tonight? Yes, sir. It was Mirai NAGASU. She's in the Shadow Realm. I love CARSON, which is surprising. I agree with you, Gabby. I did not expect him to be that dope. You know what I'm saying? From what everyone tells me, the person that he is portrayed as on all of these other shows that I don't watch, they say he's that person in the house, which is shocking because Todrick tries to create the narrative that CARSON's different in the house when everyone who actually knows CARSON can confirm he's the same. So this goes to show Todrick is projecting because he has changed, and he's trying to create the narrative he's changing because you changed. This is what narcissists do. Saida Smith says, do you see how they mentioned her mental health breakdown at the very end by saying, yo, she got to go? You ain't lying. And did you notice how Mirai tried to get the 4 black folks to vote for her to stay by saying, I was a big fan of the cookout, and everybody voted her out anyway? Listen, I ain't trying to laugh, but ain't that kind of funny, though? Listen, we not falling for the grift, coach. We'd seen DX act all pro-black, then all of a sudden, he's wifing up Bigfoot. All right, so we're not falling for this no more, Mirai. All right, we need to see some action. All right? We ain't about that talking. We about that action. That's how Cynthia and Carson feel about you, Shayna. I'm just saying what it is. I'm saying what y'all are thinking. Let's keep it a bean. I'm saying what y'all are thinking. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Gabby85 asked the question, what did you think of Mirai bringing up the cookout in her speech tonight? Oh, well, good. I kind of alluded to this a little bit. I thought it was strategic on her part. I think she was trying to tug at heartstrings. I mean, and did you see after she went home, did you hear what Lamar Odom said? He said, damn. He said, Mirai gonna be like, damn. He wanted to leave and they still voted me out. She about to be emotional tonight. That's a lot to me. I was hoping she got at least 1 vote. See, Lamar be low-key. See, he the same dude saying you can't cry after an eviction. He's the comic relief at every turn, man. He's the comic relief at every turn. But the game he's playing, the nonchalantness about it, the Shikamaru vibe to it, where it's like, I could try my hardest, but that's troublesome, right? It's endearing to an extent. It's borderline Dr. Will Kirby-esque. I'm going to say it because Dr. Will did a great job of making people believe, I don't care about none of this. I don't want to be here. Then before you know it, him not caring from the start and dragging everybody who did care about the game into the mud, and by him throwing a lot of competitions, not getting any blood, everyone basically made their decision up by a bitter jury. We're going to reward him over you because at least he told us what he was at the start and he didn't change. And see, that's Todrick's biggest miscalculation, right? How are you going to be rewarded by this cast if all of them can see you've sold your soul for the Mon Wan? How are you going to win the game that way? I just don't see it for him. Abdi asked the question, who is the worst player to win HOH to Cynthia, Lamar, and Todd? The worst to win it? I think the worst to win it between Cynthia, Lamar, and Todd. See, they're all kind of scattered in the games, right? So I think what's worse for Cynthia isn't worse for Lamar. For example, what's worse for Cynthia is MIESHA winning because she's going on the block, most likely next to Carson. But Lamar and Todd will have a free week because Lamar's in the Athletes Alliance and Todd believes he has a final 2 with MIESHA. I know, right? But that's what he thinks. And I think Todd is riding this wave of ignorance, and he's projecting more ignorance to make people drag him further, which is a smart tactic too, right? So I'd say the worst HOH for Cynthia is MIESHA. The worst HOH for Lamar just was HOH and Kirkpatrick, so Lamar's fine heading into week 3. And I think Todd's worst HOH is probably KATTAN. So yeah, that would be my guess. Especially now that Marai's gone. I think the only person that targets Todd is KATTAN. So maybe what we really need is a unprecedented Chris KATTAN HOH week. Imagine that. Listen, y'all talk about entertainment. I don't think KATTAN goes for Carson or Cynthia. I think he adores them, right? And I think he likes they cooking. Y'all saw the way he was up in that cake, huh? Somebody put their foot in that cake. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, so he loves they cooking. He ain't targeting them. And you know he loves Kirkpatrick, so he loves Shayna by proxy. So that's why I told y'all it's basically a 5-person alliance right now until MIESHA or Todrick win HOH. If MIESHA or Todrick win HOH, then of course we're going to see KATTAN, Kirkpatrick, and Shayna flip again and be on that side again. But if Carson and Cynthia win this next HOH, they really have no reason to flip back on MIESHA and Todrick's side because one of MIESHA or Todrick's gone, and it's self-explanatory to just make the other one the next house target for week 4. So that's my thoughts on that. Thomas Cook asked the question, if Todd wins HOH, what do you think he would do? I think Todd goes after Chris KATTAN and Kirkpatrick. He's already said this out loud on feeds, Thomas. And this is the reason why Todd could have been thrown up as a pawn by Kirkpatrick. But see, Kirkpatrick views Todd as someone who's like a loyal minion to him. And because of that, and he sees him as someone that's easily beatable. Because of those two things added to the equation, he never considered throwing him up, at least over a LAMAR. Or a Todrick. So, with that said, I think Todd's fine. And I think he throws up Kirkpatrick and KATTAN. Saida says, I guess Todd and LAMAR's symbiotic relationship is because one of them cares about the game and the other doesn't give a flop. They switch it daily, which is why I want them to win. No, they are pretty funny on them feeds, though. Like, they be roasting each other. And I'd be like, yo, y'all need to chill out. And then they'll joke about it later, and it kind of breaks the ice for all the other non-black folks to joke more. It's crazy how it works. Now, Cynthia has told them, though, y'all need to stop being around each other so much. Y'all seeming like y'all got some pre-game alliance together. Y'all need to be careful there. But other than that, y'all doing y'all thug thizzle. Will Todd put up Cynthia? I don't think Todd puts up Cynthia, Yanil. I think Todd has a decent to pretty good relationship with Cynthia. He also likes her cooking. And they happen to play spades a lot. And usually the person you play chess or spades with, usually someone you have an unspoken bond with. I think Todd is to Cynthia as KATTAN is to Kirkpatrick. I think they're very close, but they're good at playing it down. I don't think Todd throws up Cynthia for anything. I think he absolutely goes for both Chris's. Patrice Wyatt says KATTAN kept waking up in the middle of the night eating that cake. I'm saying, man, listen, it was like Scary Movie 2, boy. He was with the messed up hand. No, but for real, though. Hey, man, that cake did look good, bro. That cake did look good. Mr. Ty says, I hope Chris KATTAN doesn't pull a Meta World Peace and convince the House to vote him out this week. It will be a boring and predictable week if that happens. That's true, but I may keep the same energy I just kept for Mirai. If KATTAN happens to be the next boot, that means feeds will stay good. And at the end of the day, I'm going to take the W's where I can get them because the season's only 3 weeks long. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this rant. I tried my best to give you all a chance to ask some questions, but mainly I wanted to give y'all a rapid fire freestyle, giving you all the information you need for the next HOH who is bound to be crowned on them live feeds. So if you could, please don't forget to hit that like button, comment underneath this video, and share it with all of the fans of Celebrity Big Brother Season 3 that you rock with. This was the 9th rant of the season entitled Calm Before the Swarm, and I'm going to see y'all on the flip side. Deuces. I am inevitable. The stones, they have a mind